In the depths of New Orleans' twilight, Ethan, a once promising painter now weighed down by obscurity and self-doubt, battled the relentless tides of failure. At 42, his vibrant visions had faded into murky canvases and forgotten dreams. Every brushstroke reminded him of lost potential, while the damp, shadowed streets echoed his silent despair. His small, cluttered studio, tucked away in an aging French Quarter building, stood as a testament to a lifetime of struggle against time and fate. On a rain-soaked evening, as the city murmured secrets of its haunted past, a sudden knock shattered the monotonous drip on broken windows. A tall, shadowed figure appeared at his door, its eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. Without a word, the stranger filled the cramped space with an eerie chill, and the air thickened with the promise of both salvation and damnation. The pounding rain mirrored the rapid thumping of Ethan's anxious heart. The visitor, speaking in a voice as soft as a whisper and as cold as midnight, presented a surreal offer: unparalleled success and artistic brilliance in exchange for a fragment of Ethan's life. The proposition was dangerously tempting, a chance to escape his relentless failures. Yet beneath the allure of fame, a sinister dread lurked. Ethan hesitated, caught between desperate ambition and a deep, instinctive fear of the unknown, as the weight of the pact began to settle over him. Embracing the perilous pact, Ethan soon discovered that his paintings transformed overnight. Each brushstroke radiated an otherworldly brilliance that captured the attention of critics and collectors alike. His work became the heartbeat of New Orleans' art scene, with galleries clamoring to showcase his masterpieces. The intoxicating taste of recognition revived his creative spirit, as colors and textures burst forth with a supernatural fervor, pulling him out of the depths of obscurity. As his renown grew, whispers of his meteoric ascent spread like wildfire. Friends and fellow artists marveled at his newfound genius, yet none could decipher the secret behind his transformation. Late nights in the studio now brimmed with an unsettling energy, a palpable presence hovering over every stroke of the brush. Shadows danced along the walls, accompanied by faint murmurs and distant, sorrowful cries that disturbed the silence and unsettled Ethan's fragile peace. With each celebrated masterpiece, Ethan felt a deeper, more ominous drain on his vitality. The cost of brilliance became increasingly evident through unexplainable exhaustion, horrifying nightmares, and a creeping sense of dread. His studio, once a sanctuary for creative dreams, now resonated with the sinister whispers of dark forces summoned by his art. Although his hands continued to create wonders, his spirit trembled under the crushing price of success. As days bled into endless nights, Ethan's life began to unravel in unpredictable ways. The initial thrill of acclaim was replaced by a haunting emptiness, as if each masterpiece robbed him of a piece of his soul. Visions of ghostly figures invaded his sleep and daylight alike, while an inexplicable melancholy settled deep within him. The rhythmic flow of his brush now served as a grim countdown, a relentless reminder of the life he was losing with every stroke. Within the confines of his shadowy studio, the atmosphere grew thick with malevolence. Apparitions flickered at the edges of his vision, their forms shifting in and out of reality as if conjured by his darkest fears. Unnatural sounds, a persistent scraping, ghostly laughter, and whispers of despair permeated the silence. Each painting, laden with eerie energy, seemed to open a portal to realms that should have remained sealed, leaving Ethan feeling increasingly trapped within his own creation. Desperate for answers, Ethan plunged into fevered research and sleepless nights, uncovering chilling legends of cursed deals forged in the dark. The revelation that his artistic gift was a double-edged sword, a luminous talent bound to a consuming curse, filled him with paralyzing terror. Every new work, while lauded as a triumph, came at the hidden price of his own slowly dissipating life force, setting the stage for an inevitable, tragic reckoning. In a final bid to reclaim his stolen life, Ethan resolved to confront the malevolent force behind his cursed success. With trembling determination, he prepared his studio for a showdown, setting aside his brushes for desperate measures. The room pulsed with an ominous glow as the true nature of the pact revealed itself. Dark silhouettes emerged from the shadows, eyes fixed on him with ravenous intent. The boundary between reality and nightmare disintegrated before his eyes. As the confrontation reached a fevered pitch, Ethan's inner strength clashed with the encroaching darkness. He cried out defiantly against the unholy exchange that had cost him so dearly, attempting to shatter the unbreakable bond. The studio morphed into a chaotic battlefield of spectral forces and tortured echoes, where every moment stretched into an eternity of dread. The fabric of his existence tore apart, isolating him in a vortex of terror and despair. In the heartbreaking climax, Ethan faced the irreversible truth. The pact was a curse beyond redemption. As the final remnants of his spirit were devoured by the relentless darkness, his studio fell silent, haunted only by the lingering echo of a lost soul. His once celebrated genius became a grim legacy, a chilling reminder that some bargains, no matter how alluring, demand a price too steep to ever repay, condemning the soul to eternal torment. Every day in Detroit felt like an endless cycle of hardship and silent desperation. I had spent years maintaining the abandoned halls of a grand, decaying mansion in the historic district of Corktown, where peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards told stories of better days long past. The weight of unpaid bills and a bleak future pressed down on me as I moved through shadowed rooms, the loneliness of the building mirroring my own isolation. My existence was as faded as the once elegant decor, and I often wondered if fate had reserved something even darker for me. One rainy evening, while mopping a particularly grimy section of the basement floor, I stumbled upon a curious object, partially buried beneath layers of dust and debris. It was a small, intricately carved talisman with symbols I'd never seen before, its surface glimmering under the weak basement light as if holding a secret promise. The moment my fingers brushed its cold surface, a shiver ran down my spine, and the very air around me seemed to thicken with an unseen presence. Unbeknownst to me, this accidental encounter had ignited a pact with a force far beyond my understanding. In the silent aftermath of that discovery, the mansion's atmosphere changed in an almost imperceptible way. Shadows began to twist in corners, and a low, almost imperceptible murmur seemed to echo off the walls. I dismissed these signs as tricks of a tired mind, unaware that the relic had awakened a malevolent spirit determined to change my destiny. The promise of alleviating my financial burdens came with a sinister cost, and as the basement's chill deepened, I felt the first ominous tendrils of a nightmare creeping into my life. In the days that followed, strange occurrences became a relentless part of my existence. I found myself inexplicably drawn to the talisman, its presence pulsing like a heartbeat in the darkest hours of night. The mansion, once a silent relic of the past, now buzzed with an eerie energy that unsettled every fiber of my being. I would catch fleeting glimpses of spectral shapes flitting just beyond the edge of vision, and the sound of whispered voices echoed through empty corridors, each murmur hinting at a promise that was slowly tightening its grip around me. My routine, tasks were gradually overtaken by bizarre rituals I could not explain. Objects moved on their own, and unexplained cold spots formed in rooms that I knew well. At night, as I attempted to rest in the sparse quarters provided by the mansion's caretaker's room, I was plagued by nightmares, vivid scenes of grotesque figures and shadowy landscapes that blurred the line between waking and dreaming. The promise of financial relief had morphed into a relentless demand for obedience, and each day, I felt my will being eroded by forces beyond my control. With every brushstroke of mundane maintenance, I realized that the spirit was using me as a pawn in a game of dark bargains. The talisman seemed to guide my actions, compelling me to perform tasks that defied reason and morality. I was forced to arrange objects in patterns that resonated with ancient rituals and to venture into parts of the mansion I had long avoided. Though I craved liberation from my debts, the growing dread in my heart told me that the price of this supernatural favor was far steeper than I could ever repay. As the pact's hold on me tightened, the mansion's very walls began to breathe, with a sinister life of their own. The once familiar halls transformed into corridors of dread, each step echoing with the whispers of unseen entities. I found that the line between the physical and the spectral was blurring. Ghostly figures appeared in the dim light of dawn, their hollow eyes filled with an accusation I could neither comprehend nor escape. The mansion, now a labyrinth of terror, held secrets that threatened to consume my sanity with every passing moment. The daily tasks that had once grounded my existence now became rituals of horror. I was compelled to replicate mysterious symbols, drawn in dust and blood-like stains on the walls, each mark a testament to the spirit's unyielding demand. My hands, trembling and reluctant, obeyed as if possessed by a force that overrode my own will. Outside, Detroit's urban decay served as a stark reminder of my isolation, while inside, every creak and groan of the ancient building whispered of doom. The surreal blend of dread and duty left me feeling trapped in a waking nightmare, with no hope of reprieve. In the grip of this unholy alliance, time lost all meaning. Days melted into nights, and my world became an endless cycle of dark tasks and overwhelming fear. The talisman, my cursed beacon, pulsed with an ominous light during the witching hours, its power both a comfort and a curse. I began to question whether there was any escape from the insidious pact that had entwined itself with my very soul. Each ritual I performed brought me closer to a fate I desperately wished to avoid, a fate where my identity would dissolve into the shadows that haunted every corner of the mansion. Desperation drove me to seek answers about the relic and the spirit that now ruled my nights. I scoured dusty archives in Detroit's neglected libraries and pored over forbidden texts at local antique shops, piecing together fragments of lore about ancient pacts and restless entities. Every clue hinted at the existence of a way to sever the unholy bond, but the path was shrouded in as much mystery as the spirit itself. My research revealed that breaking such a pact demanded a confrontation with the very darkness that had claimed me, a challenge that filled me with both dread and a desperate spark of hope. Haunted by the increasing ferocity of the spirit's demands, I began noticing that the mansion itself was reacting to my inner turmoil. The once static portraits and decaying furniture now shifted ever so slightly when I wasn't looking, as if the building was complicit in the unfolding horror. I attempted to follow the ancient instructions I had uncovered, crafting makeshift wards and uttering incantations in whispered tones. Yet with every attempt, the spirit's influence grew stronger, its cold, commanding presence becoming impossible to ignore. The mansion's labyrinthine passages echoed with a spectral laughter that seemed to mock my feeble attempts at resistance. One fateful night, as a fierce storm battered the city outside, I resolved to confront the entity directly. In the heart of the basement, beneath flickering fluorescent lights, I arranged the symbols and relics as dictated by the old texts. The air grew electric with anticipation, and a palpable silence fell over the room. In that charged moment, the spirit manifested more fully than ever before, a formless mass of shifting darkness and malice. Its eyes, if they could be called that, burned with a predatory intensity that promised both ruin and revelation. I steeled myself for the confrontation, knowing that the outcome would determine whether my soul would finally be free or forever condemned. The final confrontation unfolded like a scene from a nightmare. In the claustrophobic depths of the mansion's basement, I faced the entity in a battle of wills that transcended the physical realm. The spirit's presence was overwhelming, a swirling vortex of darkness that seemed to consume the very light around it. I shouted defiant words into the void, each cry a desperate plea for liberation from the unyielding pact that had sapped my life force. The relic pulsed wildly in my grasp, as though it too were caught in the tumult of this cosmic struggle. In the ensuing chaos, the boundaries between reality and nightmare dissolved entirely. The basement morphed into a surreal battleground where time lost meaning and every second stretched into an eternity of terror. Shadows writhed like living creatures, and the sound of my own heartbeat thundered in my ears as I fought to reclaim my autonomy. The spirit, relentless and merciless, launched wave after wave of supernatural assaults, each one chipping away at the fragile barrier that separated me from complete submission. Amid the chaos, I could feel my identity teetering on the brink of annihilation. At the climax of this harrowing ordeal, a final surge of willpower surged through me. With trembling determination, I shattered the relic, breaking the conduit that bound me to the malevolent force. The spirit let out an unearthly wail as its power dissipated, the oppressive atmosphere lifting in a moment of bittersweet liberation. In the eerie silence that followed, I was left alone in the cold darkness of the basement, scarred by the ordeal but free at last. The pact had been broken, yet the echoes of that night would haunt me forever, a grim reminder of the perilous price of desperate bargains. Life in Philadelphia had always been a quiet struggle for me. I managed a modest existence in a dilapidated Victorian house nestled in a forgotten corner of the city. The creaks of the old wood and the whispering winds through broken windows mirrored my own constant anxiety. Debt, loneliness, and an overwhelming sense of failure filled my days, and every night I prayed for a miracle that could lift the relentless burden of despair. One stormy evening, while cleaning the long-abandoned basement, I discovered an odd, intricately carved relic hidden beneath layers of dust. Its surface shimmered with eerie symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I remember my hands trembling as I reached for it, feeling an inexplicable chill that crept up my spine. In that dim light, the relic whispered promises of hope and relief, beckoning me into a realm of forbidden possibilities. The air around me grew thick, and an almost imperceptible hum filled the silence. I sensed that this mysterious object was no ordinary trinket, but a conduit for something far darker. Unaware of the pact it would soon forge, I tucked it away, its presence lingering like a secret that would soon unravel my reality. That night, the boundaries between our world and an unknown horror began to blur, setting the stage for a deal I could never have imagined. As the nights grew colder, strange occurrences invaded my once familiar home. In the dead of night, soft whispers echoed along the hallways, and shadows twisted into unsettling forms. The relic, now placed on a dusty shelf, seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy that I could neither ignore nor understand. It was as if my entire house had become a living omen, portending a fate darker than any of my past sorrows. One fateful midnight, a presence manifested, a dark, indistinct figure that hovered near the relic. In a voice both seductive and chilling, it offered me a promise, a cure for Noah's mysterious illness in exchange for my own human essence. Desperation blinded my judgment as the thought of losing my son paralyzed me with terror and longing. Convinced I had nothing left to lose, I accepted the pact, sealing my fate with a whisper of resigned hope. The moment I agreed, the air around me shuddered with an ominous energy. The once familiar walls of our home seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and an icy dread took hold of my heart. That single fateful decision had tethered me to a force beyond comprehension, one that now demanded its due. In that dark hour, the bargain was struck, and a sinister contract was etched into the very fabric of my soul. In the days that followed, our home transformed into a theater of the supernatural. Unexplained phenomena became routine. Doors creaked, open on their own, eerie lights flickered in empty rooms, and the relic emitted a soft, hypnotic glow that never faded. I watched in growing horror as the line between reality and nightmare blurred. Every shadow and every whispered sound carried a menacing promise of what was to come, suffusing our lives with relentless terror. Noah's condition, which had once filled me with desperate hope, began to take an unsettling turn. His feverish eyes and waning strength were now accompanied by strange, dreamlike episodes, visions of ghostly figures and unsettling voices echoing in the depths of his sleep. The cure that had been promised came with a price I had not foreseen. Each passing moment left me feeling less human, as if the dark presence was slowly siphoning away my very soul. The cost of saving him was becoming a nightmare of its own. At night, as I lay awake, the oppressive weight of the pact bore down on me. The relic's power invaded my dreams with vivid horrors of torment and decay. I began to question every decision, tormented by the creeping realization that the bargain I struck was a trap with no escape. The walls of our home groaned with the echo of unseen forces, and I felt the chilling presence of the pact tightening around me, an unyielding reminder of the irreversible choice I had made. Desperation drove me to seek a way out of the unholy contract that now governed my existence. I scoured ancient texts and obscure records at local libraries, desperate for a clue on how to sever the malignant bond. In hushed tones and secret meetings with eccentric scholars, I uncovered legends of similar pacts, a curse that demanded a sacrifice far greater than mere words could capture. The more I learned, the deeper I sank into a labyrinth of dread and regret. Within the confines of our once peaceful home, the supernatural disturbances escalated into outright chaos. Night after night, the relic pulsed with a furious energy, and spectral figures roamed the halls with malevolent intent. The very fabric of the house seemed to warp under the strain of dark forces, twisting familiar corridors into distorted pathways of horror. Each inexplicable sound and flicker of light reinforced my terror, as I realized that the spirit's hold was tightening around my life and soul. I began to conduct desperate rituals in a vain attempt to undo the pact, carving ancient symbols into the creaking wooden floors and whispering forbidden incantations into the void. Yet every effort was met with brutal resistance. The spirit retaliated with spectral fury, its presence manifesting as an overwhelming force that left me trembling with fear. The battle to reclaim my humanity became a relentless struggle against the unseen, a fight where every moment threatened to be my last, and every whispered word echoed like a death knell. The final confrontation with the darkness loomed on the horizon, a terrifying showdown that would decide my fate. Under the pallid glow of a full moon filtering through cracked windows, I prepared for what felt like an inevitable war against the malevolent force. In the heart of our cursed home, I arranged every relic and symbol I had salvaged, determined to wrest back the control that had been wrenched from me. With trembling hands and a soul burdened by regret, I stepped into the maelstrom of supernatural fury. The ensuing battle was a surreal clash of light and shadow. The spirit, now fully manifested as a writhing mass of darkness, unleashed a torrent of unearthly energy that reverberated through every crevice of the mansion. My voice, raw with desperation, filled the air as I chanted ancient words meant to break the unholy bond. The room shuddered violently, as if the very foundations of our home were under siege, and for a harrowing moment, I feared that all hope was lost. In the midst of the chaos, a final act of defiance surged within me. Summoning every ounce of strength and love I had for Noah, I shattered the cursed relic with a force born of sheer determination. The spirit's anguished howl echoed through the shattered silence, and as its power dissipated like smoke in the wind, I felt the weight of the pact lift, if only slightly. In the aftermath, our home remained forever scarred by the ordeal, a grim reminder that some bargains come with a price too dreadful to bear, and that the darkest pacts can forever haunt the soul. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay informed when the next video comes out. And tell me, what did you think of today's stories? See you in the next video.